I titled this homily, The Last One or Last Man Standing, in reference to the first reading that we listened to today from the prophet Jeremiah. He was a man, of course, called by God who did not want the job that he was given. I think it's important that we remember that. But he possessed the missionary qualities and spirit each of us are called to as well. So what are those? Firmness, boldness, conviction, fearlessness, resilience, and doggedness. That's what we're all called to as a missionary people. And just a little background on Jeremiah. He is a prophet in Judah, and the people have been taken into exile. Jerusalem is a shambles, but some of the people have been left behind, and he's there to minister to them during this difficult time. And he boldly proclaimed that God remains in their presence. He was, in a very real sense, the last man standing. The phrase, the last man standing, in this sense, would paint a picture of one who stood up for the path of righteousness and holiness in spite of circumstances that were difficult or even dangerous. The society we live in at times might feel like that to many of us. It sure does to me. We must continue, however, to resist the temptation to compromise the morals and standards we are called to just to fit in, because that's the easy path out. Just fit in. Don't rock the boat. When we do, when we resist the temptation to just do it because everybody else is doing it, we become the last man or the last woman standing, just as Jeremiah was. So, if we're called to be the last man or the last woman standing, let's look at some of the characteristics of those types of individuals. First, he or she must be firmly convinced of their convictions. He or she would be the one who is not moved by the extremes of worldly standards and values. He or she has mastery over the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Every temptation that you encounter flows from those three things: lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. That's important to remember as well. The three great evils. This person, this last man or woman standing, stands their ground and refutes negative philosophies, lifestyles, and promptings to do evil. Appearing odd or non-conventional is no problem for those who are convinced of their convictions. The last one standing is usually seen when everyone else is sitting down. Is this happening in our world? And more importantly, is this what's happening in this nation that we live in? It's something to think about. What's the second characteristic of someone who would be the last one standing? It's very akin to the first. They believe in their belief. That makes sense. They believe in what they believe. They believe in their belief. In just a few moments, we're going to gather together and we're going to say, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. The question I must ask myself, and you must ask yourselves as well, am I willing to express that same belief when things are not going so well? The prophet Jeremiah was surrounded by people who wanted to eliminate him because he spoke up for what is right. What did he do? He even went so far as to accuse God of tricking him into taking the unpopular stand that he spoke. God was tricking him, and he accused him of that. But he was not a man of double standards. No. His faith in God's presence remained firm. We heard it read to us in that passage. It opened up by saying, terror on every side. That's Jeremiah speaking. Terror on every side of me. But God remains faithful, and that's important to believe. By the way, like Jeremiah, the last one standing is not afraid to express his or her anger to God. When each of us stand firm in what we believe, we learn to swim against the current and we are the last ones standing. Finally, the last one standing is the one who remains perfectly faithful to their faith. As Catholics, our faith is that which has been handed down through the ages through the apostolic succession. The beauty of genuine Catholic faith is that it is not cafeteria faith. You've probably all heard that term before, where we pick and choose what we're going to believe. The Catholic faith dispels the fear one has for standing up for what is right, good, and holy. In the letter to the Hebrews, it states that without faith, and that means persistent, genuine, real faith, it is impossible to please God. As Catholic Christians, ours is the faith that is one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. As firm believers in the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, as firm believers in the dignity of all human life from conception to natural death, as firm believers in the grace conferred by all of the Church's sacraments, as firm believers that marriage was instituted between a man and a woman, as firm believers that God determines our gender identity, our sexual identity, not us. It's not done by us. So, the question I ask myself, and we must all answer for ourselves, are we willing to be the last ones standing in a world that believes something else, in a nation that believes something else? Are we up to the task? Are you willing to be one of the last ones standing up to stop the continued moral downfall of this nation? Am I willing to be one of the ones willing to stand up to stop this destruction that's going on? I'll say this: our being here today should be our response to that question I just asked. It cannot be the totality of the response, but it should be part of our response to that question I just asked. Are you willing to stand up and stop this onslaught against this nation? And is your being here part of your response? So again, I ask myself, I ask you, is it? Why are you here?